Human Resources meeting. It's November 7th, 2024. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Matari, Brooks, and Duncan. Are there changes to the agenda? Nope. Okay. Then public comment. All right. Hearing none. Item 1, eliminate position design professional with community development. Director Callahan.
Good morning, Commissioners. After 14 months of trying, we have been unsuccessful in filling this position. The math has been dismal. We've had 14 people apply, 4 were actually qualified. I interviewed those 4 and made an offer to 1, and she turned us down. So after that experience, I'm willing to concede that we need to try a different approach and willing to let this position go.
Any questions?
No, I think it's great. I mean, if something doesn't work, change. That's just that simple. So, thank you.
All right, motion.
I move that we approve the request to eliminate the position design professional with community development.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, item 2, thank you. Higher duty pay request with the Assessor's Office. So Dyson. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have an absence in our office and somebody's filling in for a higher level position. We predict this absence will remain for some time, so we're asking to adjust her pay up in the meantime to fill this position.
All right. Questions? I mean, it's...
We worked with Dyson on this and helped him with where to put that employee to move into that spot. And the policy says 5% or minimum of the new grade. So minimum of the new grade was the most appropriate thing to do.
Okay. Questions? Motion?
How long do you anticipate this?
We don't know at this point, but we're budgeting for 12 weeks.
Okay. Okay. That's it for me. I move that we approve the higher duty pay request for the Assessor's Office.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks.
Aye.
Commissioner Matari.
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, item 3, proposed adverse employment action requirements.
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes, at the last elected officials meeting, the group discussed the current requirements on processing adverse employment actions. And the board and the discussion that we had was to expand it a little more on what items needed to go through HR and civil that eventually would probably end up with ICRIMP. And so before you, I have a draft of that memo to update for your review and discussion. The original process just included terminations of that nature. So what we've done is we've added discipline, demotion, administrative leave with pay, suspension without pay, as well as removing employee access to the county buildings, offices, and systems. So those sections, that part of the memo is new. And also, in addition, we added that if there was a critical circumstance that required the department to put an individual on admin leave with pay immediately because of a safety issue or some sort of concern, then they could do it on their own, but they just then needed to be in touch with HR and civil on the concerns and us reviewing that with them. So we have asked that that be done within 24 hours of placing an employee on that leave. And it could be either by phone or by email, and then we would follow up with the process with them. So those were the new changes to the requirements, pretty much.
Okay, and right now, percentage-wise, what percentage is not already following these guidelines?
You know, we do speak to probably pretty much everyone, but there are times, rare incidences that they don't follow some of our recommendations. But definitely on all terminations, we're like, you got to hold, you know, Darren and I are working together, and they are involved, and they no one's terminated someone without us getting that approval. And if there's a situation, there was one several years ago where ICRIMP didn't agree with terminating the employee, but Darren and I and the director of that department were like, no, we need to let them go. So we came to you, had an executive session. You guys also approved it. And that process works, that we bring it back to you if there was some disagreement with what ICRIMP recommended. And then the department wasn't liable for that deductible if it raised to that level.
Sure. And so I guess I'll just point out that this is not something that's going to burden our countywide management team because they pretty much already follow it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're working with them if they have a performance improvement plan or last chance agreement. So they've been working with us on that pretty much. I'd say the majority have.
Okay, so thoughts?
Well, I'm just kind of curious on and this is the paragraph that's highlighted you're referencing.
Yes.
Yeah. The point of giving, kind of clarifying the policy on when you can make an immediate, adverse action without running it through legal or HR is, for these items that you've listed here. And a couple of them that just stand out are alleged unlawful behavior or significant violation of policy. So if someone were to act on that, put someone on admin leave, right? Would legal and HR be the second set of eyes to ensure that this is, bona fide, that it is? And what happens if you look at it and you go, alleged unlawful behavior, I'm not so sure I see that with the evidence that you provided. So what is the next step after that?
Darren, or I can take it.
So yeah, we have had, not that exact hypothetical, but similar situations happen where we just undo it. And we're just remedial, we make recommendations. And if the manager is not going to follow our recommendation, then we bring it up the chain to the elected. But I can't think of an occasion where they didn't reverse course and follow our recommendation, where they overreacted, put somebody, well, no, I can't think.
Yeah.
See, that's where I'm really going, is I want to make sure that there's some abstract language here, right? And so what I believe someone may have done to create an adverse, impact to this employee, that we have a system of checks in place to ensure that, that one person's belief doesn't dominate the process.
So for that same department, I do recall that they have reversed action before, pulled back. If we're talking about a stick to, hey, so we should be doing the right thing, on most of these employment matters, there's a way to do it without any liability. There's a few times where it's really difficult to avoid potential liability. But for the most part, if we follow the process, it's a pretty good process. We can avoid liability. For those electeds, ultimately, that won't follow that, I think the stick is ICRIP and the board's policy here that, hey, you're responsible through your own budget, and then maybe beyond that, that's an issue that we've talked about in the past. I don't know if that answers your question. There's kind of,
Well,
the board really doesn't have that direct stick against.
and that's fine. It's just as long as there's a process in place for a second set of eyes to validate, the alleged behavior, because there should be some sort of documentation to substantiate one's allegations, and that's really where my questions are going. Because if, you could wake up one day and say, I think you might have done something that was unlawful, and so I'm going to put you on, admin leave. And then it goes to the both of you, and they go, well, I don't really have anything right now, but that's what I believe happened. What happens in those situations?
So, yeah, we have had that, and
Right.
most of the time, like I said, they reverse course and follow our recommendation. ICRIM provides a lot of tools, so outside counsel helps. We have had that.
on a couple occasions where we've asked ICRIMP to take another set of eyes that has no connection to the county, and that has helped, I think. It's helped the elected go, okay, what Sylvia and Darren are saying, we're going to follow that because everyone's saying the same thing. I think that does help.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, we're going to ask for an executive session and bring it to you, because ultimately the pay issue is a financial thing that impacts the board. If we're not able to get to some sort of agreement with that elected and move that forward, I think the one situation that I think we all recall was longer than it should have been. And I think now, seeing how that worked out, we would come and say, ooh, we need to have an executive session with that individual, and not the employee, but the manager or the elected official and the board to get this resolved.
Yeah, I guess, it's just because ultimately the buck stops with the elected officials. And if we have a good, clear policy on, for elected officials even to say, look, I am so convinced that I'm going to go outside of this policy, that, my belief on this particular issue is correct. I'm willing to go outside of this on this policy. If it turns out that they're wrong, it triggers this, ICRIMP issue and who pays and things like that. Right now, it comes across as rather abstract and rather subjective. And, the subjectivity is really one of the issues that we're trying to eliminate by developing policy.
No, I do think this is helpful. For what it's worth, the current and former ICRIMP in-house counsel, they've told me that Kootenai County, our process is the best that they deal with in the state. So I think we have a good process. But there is, from time to time, there is a department that is difficult, but I think it's getting better.
Okay.
Do you want us to tighten the language on it, or
Look,
give suggestions?
I
for us?
recognize that this is not a major issue here. We don't have this on a recurring basis. But if we're going to write policy, I always recommend that we write it tight and look for the loopholes and try to close them as much as possible. But I'm going to leave that to your discretion because both of you are really the experts on this. I'm just asking these questions. As a matter of, that way an elected official can look at this and say, I allege unlawful behavior. I brought it to HR and legal. They disagreed with me. It goes to the board, for example. If the board disagrees, then at that point, that elected official is now on the hook through their budget or some other mechanism to cover an ICRIMP deductible claim. That way, it's a very clear pathway for the person who is, administering this rapid admin leave, and we have clear thresholds of what must be met.
So we could use some more forceful and mandatory language, but I don't know that it would change anything if we added that. To me, this sets the tone of what we need to do. To me, this is sufficient.
So,
And it gives what it does is it just gives the department authority to put them on admin leave with pay, not terminate them
No, I understand.
and stuff. So at least the employee is being kept whole, although, once the rumors get out or individuals start hearing things, the employee who's on that leave is feeling like, ugh, this isn't good, or everybody knows about it and I've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just thinking of it a little more from the perspective of the elected official side of this. And is there a policy? And if there's a policy, at what point does it trigger other potential events? Again, I don't see this as a major issue, but it comes to mind as I'm looking at this, because if I was, in a situation with an employee and I wanted to say there was a significant violation of policy, that's an abstract term. I could, what's significant to me might be immaterial to Darren here.
to me, the most important part, and we haven't had this for a while, but it's the 24-hour notice. I can recall when we didn't hear about it, and when we did hear about it, it was from the employee. It was much longer than 24 hours. And to me, that 24 hours, I mean, we're available somewhere by cell phone within 24 hours. So that, I think that's a reasonable time period to provide us with enough facts to make an educated opinion as to what they should be doing. And we didn't have that in the past, or we really didn't need it. But I can think of at least one occasion where 24 hours, we didn't receive any notice. Now that we have this policy, everyone should understand that, hey, you have to contact us within 24 hours. We really are here just to help make sure we get these things through without liability to the county.
Zachary Newkirk for the record. If I can direct the board's attention to the following paragraph, I think that may help clarify as to where consequences may end up in liability being held by the department and the elected official.
Well, it may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like for us to get more specific on significant violation of policy?
For me, again, it's very small percent, likelihood. It's really just a matter, I ask these questions because this is the cheapest time to ask these questions. We don't want to be asking them if we're in another situation and we're going, oh boy, we didn't address it in this particular set of language policy here. That's in essence, the only reason I bring this up. So I'm bringing it up for your, choice on the matter and the balance of the boards, not because I have some desire to add language for the sake of it.
I think for me, the follow-up review of alleged misconduct will occur to determine next steps in situation. And if that next step is you reverse it, I'm kind of comfortable with that. And like you said, it's a small percentage, and hopefully the percentage gets smaller.
I think the only issue with the reversing is just, who ultimately has that authority. And I believe it would fall under the elected officials' authority and not anyone else's.
Correct, but then again, it says if you do not follow HR and legal's advice, then there's consequences.
There may be consequences.
There may be. That one would be difficult to put black and white, because I think may is the best term to use there.
Yeah.
Because it can't always.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. So, should we move forward with it? Do you have?
Well, I think part of the problem is it's in our nature to try to write a policy for every happenstance. And that's not possible. You'll end up drowning in policy. And especially when we have competent people in HR and legal, these are the things that kind of give us a clue whether we're on track or not before we have to go. But we have a policy that's just done. That may be nice and neat, but it's not practical.
Okay. So you're good with approval today?
Yeah,
All right, motion?
I move that we approve the proposed adverse employment actions requirements with human resources.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. Okay, item 4, the fiscal or the to be implemented in fiscal year 26 salary market study, but to be conducted during this. Sylvia?
Every 3 years, HR enters into a consulting agreement with an outside organization to conduct a comprehensive market study of our salaries. Ameriben, for many, many years, had been conducting the surveys, and their HR consulting part of that organization is no longer in business. They've decided to absolve it as of the end of September 2024. So we have received proposals from 4 other entities, and we have a recommendation on the firm to go with, but all of our proposals, they ranged from anywhere to almost 20,000 to 62,000. And we've seen the final product of the company we are proposing to do business with. They did Blaine County's salary survey a couple years ago, I believe it was, and it's Thompson Consulting Group that we're recommending. And our whole purpose of the market study is really to see how our pay structure is comparing to other entities, and to make sure that we're offering market salaries for our positions, and that we can recruit and retain our employees. It also falls within our policy 120. So the other recommendation we have is that we maintain the same organizations we used 3 years ago for our study. And those entities were the City of Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Boise, Canyon County, Ada, Bonner. And then for Washington, we had Spokane, Spokane Valley, and Spokane County. And the reason we're recommending that we maintain that continuity is so that we can look at, have we progressed from the information we had 3 years ago with everything that the board has approved for pay, or are we falling behind? So maintaining that consistency of comparing apples to apples is important as well. In this study that we're doing, we're looking at benchmarking 100 common jobs across the organization. And they'll be comparing job descriptions, not titles. So they'll look at the essential functions and key skills for each of those positions. In the data collection, that if they don't find a match of 3 positions, organizations that have a match for it, then it wouldn't be included in the salary survey. So what we'll do is we would collect the data for in this year, fiscal year 25. We'll have to age that data based on trends, information that we have. What is the market doing? What are these organizations planning to do for their fiscal year 26 budget? We bring back that information to the board at budget time, and then you guys get to make the decision on. We'll make some recommendations, and then you make the decisions from there. So Thompson Consulting Group is asking for $19,850 to do the study for us. That's what they projected. We budgeted $17,450, so the difference is about $2,400 to engage their services to conduct our salary survey.
Do you think you have margin in your budget to absorb that, or come back at us at 6 months and let us know?
We may. I looked at our budget from last year, and we did have some salary savings. So if we can just monitor it, and if it looks like we're going to be short because everything else we budgeted for is coming on track, then I'll come to you and say, hey, we'll need a budget adjustment to cover the $2,400.
Okay. All right, questions?
Yes. First of all, I think it's great that you're sticking with the same locations so that we can do an apples-to-apples comparison. That way our variable is the time difference, the difference over time. But I'm curious, do they also look at the benefits?
We had thought about having them look at our benefit package, but with our PMR clinic right now, we felt like we better get some experience with it, and it'll be hard to compare that. So we did not ask them for a benefit comparison. Originally, we had thought about it, and then it's like, oh, we've got PMR, so we may not. If you'd like for us to add it, I know I think Thompson had originally done it, and it'd be about $26,000 instead of the $19,850.
Yeah. The only reason I think it's prudent, excuse me, is because depending on how you look through the prism, you're going to get a different answer. If we're just going to get salary and we only look at salary, we're not, it's a benefits package.
Sure.
It's not just your pay. Typically government has traditionally paid less. In exchange, you get a pension, right?
Right.
So
And all our entities are the public sector.
I understand that. Just using that as an example,
Sure,
and then how do you value those differences in essence?
We could add it because they had originally looked at it with the benefits. And then we're like, is this the time to look at that right now with our PMR clinics? So,
Well, I mean, is the PMR clinic, it seems to be going pretty good. We're coming out of the gate pretty good with it, right?
oh, yes, yes. I had a situation today where I was told that someone wasn't feeling well. And they're going to get in today, but it's at the end of the day. So to me, that says our clinic is full, but they're still fitting it in to accommodate our staff.
Well, I would recommend that we include the benefits. And by the time you get this report, we'll probably even have more information about PMR, and then we could start looking at it, because I think a lot of people in the county will be looking at it. And so we want to make sure we're looking at this comprehensively and not just from that one angle of pay.
Okay.
And then also, I think in the past it's happened, and I think, Sil, you and I have talked about it as well, is putting those benefits in dollar amounts. So usually, I don't think it's at the end of the fiscal year. I thought it was at the end of the calendar year. There was a communication out to all employees to say, if you're in this tier, your benefits package adds $6 an hour to your salary and on there. So
Yeah, we could work on that internally. It's called a total rewards, like summary. Here's your benefit package, here's your salary, and the two combined equate to $150,000 a year type thing. We can work towards that as well. It wasn't projected for Thompson to do that, but it might be an internal tool we can use. And last time we did the benefit analysis, what the agency did for us, and it was Ameriben, is they look at the premium. I mean, it's hard to compare, here's your deductible, and here's this, and here's the premium. I think they compared the premium for a single, a couple, family with one child, children, that sort of thing.
Was the coverage the same?
The coverage, I don't think we could pull that. That was a little bit difficult, but I can go back and look at that study. That was in 2019.
Yeah.
So, and I'll talk to Thompson and make sure that the 26,000 would still be good. That's going to get a little tighter for our budget. So what I can do is, if you'll authorize me to move ahead, because we're getting anxious to get this going, because it'll go fast, and Thompson will have a lot of work to do to get the salaries. And they are aware that the Washington salaries, we won't have anything for their 25 budget till like December. The Idaho ones we're good with. We know what they're doing with their 25 budget, but Washington's on a full calendar, regular calendar year, so that'll take some time. And if the pricing changes, I'll come back to you.
all right.
But I'd like to move forward and get everything started with them.
Okay, so does a contract need to go forward, or we can just sign this document today with the note?
They didn't
notation?
indicate. If you'll just give me authorization, I'll see if they want a contract,
Okay.
if they have some follow-up paperwork that needs to be signed, and I will
Get on
fast
the-
track that with legal and with the board and get it on a business meeting
Okay,
agenda.
all right. Bill, are you all right with increasing the cost to cover the benefits?
I think it's important to show, because it's actual cost that the county puts out, and people should be aware of that.
So we want to add to include employee benefits in the motion. Okay. I move that we approve the FY26 salary market study to include the employee benefits.
I second the motion.
Bill Brooks,
Aye.
Commissioner Matari,
Aye.
Chair Duncan.
Aye. All right, thank you. Item 5, countywide open positions. Ms. Proud again.
All right. So we did a summary of open positions as of the end of October 31st, 2024. And at that time, we had about 83 positions open, which is close to 4% more than last year. 38 of those open positions are funded at 50%. And then our hard-to-fill positions is approximately 51. And that is made up of 23 detention deputies, 11 echo positions, 6 patrol, 6 custody techs. We have a couple planner positions open and an attorney position. So those seem like our harder to fill positions. In speaking with Marcia from the sheriff's office, they do have 2 jail deputies starting on Tuesday, November 12th, and then a third one starting in December of 24. And out of those 3, 2 are laterals, so their training will scale back. I did do a comparison to see what, for the sheriff's office, how they were trending. So this year compared to last year, this year we have 23 detention deputy openings. Last year they had 12. 11 echo positions this year, 11 last year. And where we've made progress is we have 6 patrol deputy openings now. They had 12 last year. So we did some planning with Marcia yesterday. We had our recruiting meeting. We really talked about continuing to leave their positions open even if they get a rush of applicants in, and to get them hired, and their goal is to try and get them seated somewhere in the organization so they don't lose those employees. So we feel like they're making some progress. We're going to have some discussions with the background investigator and Captain Deke on how that process works, because there's a lot of discussion of, you make me go back so many years in to provide information that's difficult, it's time intensive, and those sort of things. So we want a better understanding there. So we can, as you're getting comments on it, we can help advocate one way or another on that situation. So those are kind of the next steps we're going to take with the sheriff's office.
Could I propose that we try to put forward a goal of what to accomplish in the next 6 and 12 months
Okay.
for that? Because it gives everyone, it kind of pulls them together towards, a unifying achievement here.
Sure. We'll work with them, and of course it'll be working with them to get that goal, what that may look like. Hopefully we can really get those detention numbers down and those echo numbers down, because the board's made great efforts on increasing pay for all those positions, and we've got to see some movement.
Mm-hmm. So thank you.
But they are working at it.
All right. Any other questions on that? Okay, public comment. Jonathan, anyone online? Anyone on the phone? Okay, 10:33, meeting adjourned. Thank you.